Greetings and salutations, friends, and thank you for tuning in to Tone on a Budget. This is going to be the final review of the Indonesian-made Fender Standard Precision Bass and all of the things that I've done to it. And this is not feeling good. One of the few things that I haven't changed on this is that jack. That's getting changed. I have not changed the potentiometers or the knobs, and they will most likely be changed at some point in the near future as well. What I have changed is everything else. Okay, let's start with the hardware. As far as hardware goes, Fender high mass bridge with chrome plated brass saddles. Okay, all right. Then, strap locks. They go on every one of my basses. Gotta have strap locks because I can't have it falling off on me and hitting the stage and breaking. All right, number 3, okay, and that is right here. Let's see if you can see what that says. Can y'all read that? Oh, come on now. There we go. It says hip shot. I replaced the stock tuners, which are the exact same tuners that go on the Mexican-made basses, as well as this thing, the stock bridge, which appears to be very similar to the Mexican bridge, and I'm going to show you because I've got the Mexican bridge right here too. Then, what else did I change? Because the blank neck plate was really bugging me and screamed, "Not a Fender!" I changed it to the Fender Corona California neck plate. Okay, then, see if we can read that. I changed the pickup to Wilkinson. It is a Amazon buy from a seller on Amazon called Music Lily. These things get great reviews. It's an Alnico 5 magnet in these, and it's branded as vintage tone. And I think it sounds pretty vintage. It sounds pretty good. I like it. Big improvement on the ceramic pickup that came with it stock. I found that pickup to be harsh sounding. Not a whole lot of character to it, just kind of stark, and I really didn't like it. That had to go. As far as tuning goes, when I was turning these stock tuners, you know, you can even feel it when you're tuning them, you know, turning these things without anything on them. Felt like they were slightly binding, and they weren't real smooth. They stayed in tune okay, but it just didn't feel good. You know, when you go to tune them, sometimes you had to really give it a hard turn to get it to move with tension on them. And I guess these are 22-to-1 machine heads, and these hip shot HB7s, which are a direct drop-in replacement for what they're calling these. They're calling these the Highway 1 pieces of hardware, the tuners. These things pop right in, didn't have to do any modifications whatsoever. Just take these things off and put the new hip shot HB7s in. Okay, they're not cheap, but they are so much better, so much smoother than the stock tuners. I highly recommend them, and like I said, they're a real easy install. You know, 4 screws per tuning machine, and they also, these ferrules, these are the ones that came with the new tuners. I didn't use them. I used the stock ferrules because they're the same size, and you know, taking out the stock ferrules was just, you know, I didn't want to gouge the wood or anything trying to get them out because they're in there pretty snugly. Okay, so that's that. All right. Yeah, this thing it's definitely for what you're getting at the $600 price point from an Indonesian instrument. A lot of people are calling this a rebranded Squire, and I'm saying it's not, because the Squire does not use these tuning heads, for one. Okay, it does. The Affinity Squires do use a ceramic pickup, and um, the hardware is the same as the hardware that's going on the Mexican. What do they call them? Player twos now. It's the same hardware. Okay, and the reason I know this is because these HB7 uh, replacement tuners are for the Mexican. Um, this bridge is identical to the Mexican, which I have right here. And I had the Mexican installed on it because this bridge, what I found was that they didn't screw this down all the way at the factory. The screws were not quite all the way in. So when I put tension on these strings and I started playing, this bridge was coming up and it started bending. So I had to change it anyway. And I had this this player series that dropped right on. The measurements are the same for the screw holes and everything. The 5 screw holes. It's the identical vintage style bridge, and it sounded fine. The only difference I can find between the Mexican bridge and the Indonesian bridge, I mean, they feel the same. The thicknesses of the bass are the same. The only difference is these look like they're aluminum, but I don't believe they're aluminum. They can't be. These I know are chromed zinc, is what the saddles are. These things are probably some other coating over zinc as well. I doubt they're aluminum, because aluminum would be more expensive. Zinc is a pretty cheap metal compared to aluminum. I also changed the strings. I put on Fender. Actually, I have the packaging right here. I put on these Fender 45 to 100 flat wound strings, and they're very nice, very smooth. I think they go well with the bass. I mean, it's Fender P bass. Why not have some Fender flat wound strings on it? Because what I was going for was something that looked and sounded like a vintage P bass, and I was looking at like 60s P bass, something that would have been used on the old R&B recordings back in the day. Because if you look at the photos from the studios when they were recording those old hits, James Brown and all those guys, the one when they had a P bass in the studio, it looked like this. Oh, and that's another thing I changed. I changed the pick guard. It came with just a gloss black pick guard, and I put this brown tortoiseshell pick guard on it. Now, here's the thing, folks. Okay, once you're done, if you do the same exact modifications I did, okay, and that's with the hip shot tuners, the HB7 tuners, the Fender high mass bridge, okay, the Wilkinson pickup, the neck plate replacement, and the pick guard. If you change all of these, once you're done, if you do all the work yourself, once you're done, you'll have about the same amount of money into this thing as you would if you had bought a Mexican a player 2. Okay. Now, here's the thing, though. You're not going to get a player 2 with this finish and this pick guard. Okay, you're not going to get a player 2 that looks like this. Okay. Secondly, you're going to have a better bass with this setup than you would if you would just, you spend $800 for the base model player 2. All right, the player 2 precision bass. It's made in Mexico. All right, you're $800 right there plus tax. Okay, This thing costs $600. All right, made in Indonesia. And then the upgrades that I did to it bring us up to about the same price as the Player 2 model, except you have a higher quality instrument than you would if you would have just bought the stock Player 2. Because here you've spent the same amount of money. You have a vintage Alnico 5, a vintage wound and sounding Alnico 5 pickup. You have a high mass bridge. You have quality precision tuners. You have obviously the name brand neck plate, but I think the Players 2 come with a big F. The Player 2 series does, so you don't have to change that. And you have the vintage brown tortoise shell pick guard. All of this makes this bass a better bass than what you're getting in stock form from Mexico. Because now hear me, okay? You got this bridge, these tuners, and the stock pickup, which isn't bad, but it's not a vintage style pickup. It's not going to sound like a vintage pickup. It's going to sound like a modern pickup, although it does have an Alnico magnet in it. So it is a slightly warmer pickup, and it'll give you a little smoother response than the ceramic magneted pickups. But it's still, when you buy the Mexican model, it needs the same upgrades that this thing needed. You need to upgrade the hardware right out of the gate. You need to, right here, okay? These two bits right here are $150 of the upgrade cost, okay? That's 3/4 of the cost of the upgrades is right here. The tuners and the high mass bridge. All right. Then you've got the pickup on Amazon, which is, like I said, is a huge improvement to the pickup that came in it. That was $25. Okay. Then I've got the, I got everything at a discount, but I got the tortoiseshell pick guard. That was relatively cheap. The neck plate, that was relatively cheap. The strap locks, everything I got at a discount. So it wasn't too hard to do. But once it's all said and done, I've got a better bass here that was, the body, neck, and fretwork was done in Indonesia. Everything else was done right here, right in this room. Okay, and I've got a better bass right now with the money that I've spent, all the hardware, the pickup, and the strings, strap locks and stuff, and the look, than I would have if I'd have just bought a standard Player 2 precision bass. Okay, so I'm going to plug this thing back in. The jack and potentiometers are they don't cost a lot. I'll spend another $25 and get the potentiometers and the jack and rewire this thing with some CTS pots and a switchcraft jack. But I'm going to mute the mic and I'm going to go back to playing this thing a little bit so you can hear it. I'm going to play it without the drums first, and then I'm going to go and play with a beat. So here we go. Let me go ahead and mute my mic. So there you have it. The Indonesian Standard precision bass, upgraded by yours truly. And I really don't have any more money into this thing than I would if I would have bought a standard Player 2 Series Mexican made Fender precision bass. But I have a much better instrument for the same amount of money once I've done my upgrades. And like I said, if you were to buy the Mexican, which is fine, I mean, if that's what you want, but you're buying an instrument that needs pretty much the same upgrades that this thing does, and you're spending $200 more for it. Think about that. You know, you're still going to have to upgrade the bridge because, you know, this is the low mass vintage style zinc saddle bridge. This bridge with the steel base plate and chrome plated brass saddles is $50. Okay, you need to upgrade the tuners because really these suck. You know, they're Fender branded, you know, whippy crap, so they say Fender, but they are not smooth, they are not precision, which, you know, one thing I noticed when I went and I put these hip shot tuners in and I went and I tuned the bass, I got it tuned immediately. I didn't have to go back and forth and find that precise tuning. I was able to go right to it. It just slid right into the perfect tune on each string, which you're not going to be able to do with the stock tuners at all. You know, like, why spend $200 more and have to do the exact same modifications when, you know, you can spend $600 instead of $800 and put that extra $200 into upgrades. All right, guys, I want to thank you for watching today. Like I said, this is the final review of this particular bass. I like the bass. I think it's awesome. I think the fit and finish, they did a really good job on it. The neck is tight in the pocket. The, you know, finish looks great. The feel of the neck is slick. I mean, you can play this thing. It's not as thick, you know, in the back like the original precision bass necks. You know, that felt like a sawn in half baseball bat. You know, but it's still got there's some girth here. It's a little thinner though. I think it's the same width, but you know, front to back it's a little thinner. It's nice. It feels really good. The fret job is really good. I do have to be honest though. One issue I found with the frets, and this is going to be repaired next week. I'm going to take it to our local luthier. His name is Scott Bond at Fat Cat Guitars. Hey Scott, what's up? He does all the stuff on my instruments that I don't do, and fret jobs is one of them. The number 6 fret on this bass is low. It's just a tiny bit. I've been able to adjust the neck so that it's not as noticeable, and I can still play, you know, here at the 6th fret without it fretting out, as long as I don't hit it too hard. But it is low, and it does need to be raised up a bit. So Scott's going to take care of that for me. He said he's going to see if he can coax it up and shoot a little glue in there and be done with it without having to replace the fret. Other than that, that's it. And this jack feels janky. It's a cheap instrument jack. That's going to be changed. And if I'm going to change the instrument jack, I'm changing the potentiometers too. Like I said, I'm going to go with CTS pots and a switchcraft jack. And that I'll be doing probably next month. And then everything will have been changed on this thing except for the body, neck, and frets. Oh, and the nut. I left the nut because the nut seems fine. I don't have any problem with the nut at all. And like I said, it appears to be bone. It doesn't look like plastic. It looks like a bone nut or synthetic bone, which is, I think synthetic bone is something that Fender has been doing pretty much across the board on everything. So that's where we're at. All right, this has been Tone on a Budget. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Peace and God bless.